Hey guys, I am back again. Stay tuned, I've got a lot to talk about. Hey guys, welcome back into the channel. My name is Andrew with 5 Little Ducks Resale. And the last time that I posted a video, I think was at the beginning of the year. I think it was sometime at the end of January, maybe early February of this year. And as I'm sitting down to record this, it is late July. So I've been gone for probably 5 to 6 months. And during that time, our life has just been crazy. We have been beat down more than I would care to go on. But I feel like I owe you guys an explanation as to why I was gone. And the sad reality, unfortunately, is that my father passed away at the beginning of April. He had a procedure scheduled in late March to get a heart valve replaced. And unfortunately, that procedure didn't go as planned. And we ended up losing him due to complications as a result of that. And you know, the death of a parent, I don't wish that on anyone. It has really, upended our family in ways that I couldn't have even imagined. And because he lived in such close proximity to me, it was really up to myself and my wife to manage all of his affairs. My brother, who lives in Arizona, came in with his wife and they helped us clean out his apartment. And, they were at least there during the grieving process. And so, when all was said and done, we ended up having about a 4-day estate sale at our place here to get rid of all of his stuff. And luckily, my wife runs a charity on the side. And so anything that we had left over, we basically ended up donating to the charity. So it went to a really good cause. But as you can imagine, losing a parent, isn't just a one-time event. There's things that you have to manage and deal with as a result of that. And having never lost a parent before, thankfully, this was a brand new experience to me, and obviously there was a lot to it. So I didn't think that YouTube was something that I could handle at the time, but now that there's been a significant time passed since that event, we're finally kind of putting the pieces of our lives back together and we're trying to move forward. So obviously not the best reason why I was gone, but that's life. So we move on, we cherish those loved ones, and we have to continue life on in their memory. So going from such a somber moment, it's hard to jump into something happy, but that's what I think life is all about. It's getting beat down, it's getting back up, it's putting your feet one step at a time and trying to make your way in this world. And that's really what I'm trying to do with this video, is trying to put the pieces back together, trying to get into some sort of normal routine. I had such high hopes for this channel, and things just change in an instant. So again, trying to get back into the swing of things. So please bear with me if I'm rambling or if I'm trying to, just please bear with me. As you can imagine, there's a lot going on. One of the things that I wanted to do with this channel was try to get into some routine with our weekly sales and getting a recap of what had sold and showing you the hauls of what we had gotten each week and whatnot. And unfortunately, this time of year, though there are a lot of garage sales, the quality of stuff at garage sales is not great. We've been doing a lot of sourcing. It's just that sourcing really hasn't been very fruitful. And so what I thought I would do on this episode is kind of go through the top, I think, 12 or so biggest sales from the time that I have been absent. Because even though life has beat us down, things keep happening. We still need to make money. We still need to live. And so reselling was still always ongoing. We weren't doing a whole lot of listing while my father was in the hospital, but things were selling, and so that was good. So what I will present to you is the top 12 sales on eBay from these last I generated this within the last 90 days. But there are some stories that I can elaborate on some of these items. Some good, some bad. Well, let's jump into them and you can hear for yourself. So the top sale of this period was for this vintage Seiko pulse meter watch. It was a digital wristwatch that I got on consignment. And this ended up selling for $349.99 plus shipping. So there's an interesting story about how I came into contact with this watch. So this watch, some other watches, some photographic equipment, and some electronics all came my way via a consignment deal that I set up with a distant relative. So on my mom's side, she had kind of gotten into genealogy and reaching out to family members on her side to learn more about her family. And as it turns out, she had been in contact with a cousin of hers who lives in Pennsylvania. Now, this cousin I have never met, and she's older than my mother. And she used to communicate with her from time to time, but they had recently gotten together again and were talking and sharing stories. And obviously the topic of reselling or something came up because she had recently lost her husband about a year ago. She had let my mother know that there were some items from her husband that she thought may have been of value, but because that she now knew that we were resellers, wanted to see if we wanted to consign them. And obviously, I wouldn't have gone into this deal just because she was a family member. I reached out, talked to her on the phone, and she made mention of the fact that there were some watches, some camera equipment that I thought, well, depending on the quality of the items and if they were in working condition, yeah, we might be able to strike some sort of deal. So the crazy part about all this was that my mother's cousin's son ended up living on the same street as my mother in the city about an hour east of here. So crazy small world, I know, but through one method or another, we finally got the consignment items delivered to us. And so it's been a process going through and trying to figure out what was sellable, what wasn't, and it was kind of a big learning curve for me because I typically don't deal in higher end jewelry or whatnot, but it was fun. It was a great learning curve. I managed to teach myself how to crack open watches and change batteries and all this other stuff. And this was kind of the, one of the cream of the crops of this. Now, as you can see from the picture, I'm going to put it up again. It looked like it had a faded LCD screen, but it was working. I had tested it all out, and I guess this was a fairly popular model, and it sold for $349.99. So great sale there. The next item was actually another vintage Seiko watch. This one was the Seiko G757-4010 quartz wristwatch. Now this actually has another interesting story. This is not part of the consignment deal. This one I found, I think last year at a garage sale. It was marked 25 and it came with the original case and instruction manual. And at the time it didn't work, and I figured at some point I'd get a new battery for it and try to get it working. Well, of course, life got in the way. You heard my story from earlier, and so I never got a chance to deal with it. It's just been sitting on the shelf. But one of the things about wristwatches is that I've always been a huge aficionado, especially of digital watches, like the high-tech kind of geeky ones. And so when I saw this, I knew immediately what it was from. This watch was actually featured in a James Bond movie. And while it wasn't the exact same version, and I'll do a screenshot of the movie here, you can see that the face was pretty much identical with some theatrical effects added, of course. So this wristwatch sold for $249.99. I ended up literally teaching myself how to dissect this watch. I basically took it all apart. I was doing watch repair videos on YouTube, trying to clean off corrosion off of the motherboard and whatnot. So a really fun project, but also really profitable too. Now, I'm gonna put up one picture of what it looked like when I had fixed it. I had actually cleaned off the motherboard, cleaned off the corrosion, put a brand new battery in it, reassembled it, and it looked like this. And as you can see, it looked great. And I put it back in the case and I was thrilled, and the next day it faded again. And so there was something definitely structurally wrong with the watch, and that's kind of where my knowledge ended. And I figured, well, as much as I love this watch and I didn't want to part with it, I knew that I could get some money for it. So I listed it high, actually, because, it's sentimental. You don't really want to sell something, so you're going to list it pretty high, and hopefully no one will buy it. Well, much to my surprise, someone bought it. So $249.99 out the door. I think I made a deal for $15 at the time. So a great profit margin on that. I can say that I've owned a piece of James Bond history, which is great, and we live on to tell another tale. The next item on the list was this lot of 650 pieces. It was an LOL doll lot, and this sold for $170 on best offer plus shipping. And this is one of those that I look back on and I am just still shaking my head about how this all went down. So as I'm talking about this, I'm going to put up some pictures Of all of the photographs that I put up with this listing, we bought this lot. It was mixed in with a ton of other toys. And so I literally spent hours picking out all of the LOL pieces, separating out the clothing pieces, the shoes, the accessories, counting each and every piece, and making a very detailed list about what was included in the listing. And in the end, there was actually more than 650, but I figured that sounded like a good round number to add to my title. So again, it wasn't just 650 dolls, it was 650 pieces, which included dolls. And as you can see here, again, there's a listing, a breakout in the item description of what was included. There were a ton of watchers on this lot for a while, and even though I was getting a ton of lowball offers, I knew I had a kind of a price range in mind. So again, I listed it a little bit high with some wiggle room, and I wanted to get at least, probably 150 for it. And I was getting offers of 175 and all this other stuff, and they're decent offers, but again, I was looking for a little bit more. The listing had gone a little bit stale just because it had been listed for quite some time, and so I literally forgot about it. So I see this offer come through for 170, and I decided to take it. So as you can tell from this picture here, this was basically the contents of the box that I sent. All of the dolls were separated in a plastic bag, all of the accessories, all of the little individual pieces, they were all separated out so that it kind of matched with some degree of similarity the listing that I had broken down in the item description. So the box was received, the buyer thanked me, and life went on. So much to my surprise, with about 10 days remaining of the return window, I get a message from the buyer saying that things were missing from the package. And so I was quick to respond, and I said, well, can you tell me what you think is missing? Because I have pretty much broken down, dolls and pieces and all this other stuff. And, if there was an item that was missing, we might be able to easily identify. Maybe I forgot to get one of those bags and included it in the box. Or, there may have been some sort of logical explanation as to what was missing. But of course, the buyer didn't tell me. He just kept saying, look, there's things missing. You need to fix it. Okay, but you're not telling me what's missing. So after about a day or two of this, he was, of course, escalating in his tone. And I was just saying, look, I am more than happy to work with you, but I need to know what's missing. Like, if legitimately, if you look at all of the pictures, I've broken down everything that I included in the listing, pieces, parts, accessories, this and that. Tell me what is missing. Look at the pictures and tell me. Nothing. So of course he's threatening to open up a return, and I said, you know what, great. If you don't want it, if there's things missing, send it back to me and I'll give you the refund. Well, he proceeds to tell me that he's out of the country and can't do a refund, but he opens one anyway. And I said, okay, fine. So I accepted the return, which forced him to take action, which means he needed to send it back to me. So I get the tracking number from eBay, and lo and behold, this shows up. Now, does that look like something that could hold what I had sent? No. What you saw there was an empty padded envelope with an eBay printed label. That empty padded envelope cost me $18.61, which I'm still trying to get back, by the way. Obviously, I called eBay. I explained the situation as best as I could. And the first person that I spoke with told me to do something rather strange. She told me to message the buyer, letting him know that I received the empty package and he wouldn't be getting a refund. I said, okay, that's fine, I'll do that. And I actually typed up the message as I was on the phone with the eBay representative and sent it. And she said, okay, well, once the return window closes, then we'll close it out and you'll be fine. And something wasn't sitting right with me about that. So I let about a half hour pass. I called eBay back, got another representative. I explained the situation over, and she was willing to close the case in my favor at that time, or based on the information that I sent her, that I received an empty package back, that the buyer wasn't due a refund, and that was it. So I got the email from eBay saying that the case was closed in my favor and all was well. Well, that evening, something changed. I got a message from eBay saying that the case had been reversed and now I owed a refund to the buyer. So it was about 11 o'clock at night when I was looking at my phone and noticed that message pop up, and I sprang up off of the couch because my wife and I were watching TV at the time, and I sprinted over to my computer and was basically probably shouting obscenities at that point. Got eBay back on the phone and I said, what is going on? And what we could piece together was that he probably got the notification that the case was closed in my favor, got upset with the representative, and he probably told them something to have them reverse the decision. So I appealed that decision, and I guess during this process you only get one appeal. Ultimately, the case was resolved in my favor, where even though I won the case, I lost the case, but then eBay reversed it back to me. So in the end, I got to keep the money and the buyer was out. So it was kind of a knockdown, drag out fight, but in the end I won, which was good. But to this day, I still don't know what was supposedly missing. So there it is. Next up on the list was this Callaway orange golf bag, which sold for $99.99 plus shipping. I picked this up at a local thrift store for $40 and included a set of ladies' clubs, both irons and woods, and some head covers as well. Got everything for $40, and my plan all along was to separate out the clubs from the bag and just sell the bag separately because it was in such good shape. And it was listed for a number of weeks, and I figured with it being summertime, somebody might be looking for a golf bag, and sure enough, sold for full asking price. Next up was another watch from the consignment sale. And this was a vintage Pulsar analog digital silver and white quartz. This one ended up selling for $124.99. And the next item up on the list was also from the family member consignment. And this was a Seiko Kinetic analog watch. This one was kind of a cool one. So it doesn't have a battery per se, but the movement of your arm and the movement of the watch over time creates some sort of motion within the watch, which winds the mechanism inside. And so as long as you're moving every so often, then it actually keeps the watch charged. Kind of cool. So this one ended up selling again for $124.99 plus shipping. Next up was this vintage Smith Corona 1953 Sterling 5A model with a floating shift. This actually had a case and original key. Picked this up at a garage sale for approximately $20, I believe. If I recall correctly, this garage sale had a number of other typewriters there. So I was trying to do some research to figure out which one that I wanted. If I remember correctly, it was an early sale, or it was early in the day, and I didn't want to spend all of the money that I had on typewriters. So I picked out what I thought was the best one, and it ended up sitting for quite some time. Honestly forgot about it. The thing about this one is that it had a very strong vintage smell, and I remember putting that in the listing, so hopefully the buyer read that. In fact, I believe it's still in transit as of the recording of this video, so hopefully the smell doesn't force a return. Regardless, it sold for $99.99 plus a flat rate of $30 shipping. And I think I went just over that, but in the end, hey, that's okay. The next item was from my dad's estate. There were a number of things that we didn't end up selling at the estate garage sale, things that I figured we might be able to get a little bit more for online. And this was a lot of 17 Calvin and Hobbes comic strip collection trade paperback books. And these sold for $99.99 plus shipping. Next up, we have a 2002 Mattel Pregnant Midge with Midge and baby, but she's pregnant, so I don't know if that means it's the second baby. Well, regardless. This one sold for $99.99 plus shipping. And I picked this up at a garage sale. It was actually a repeat garage sale. I'd been to, I think this place does a benefit garage sale every year, and so I went last year, found some good stuff, went again this year and found this one. Typically I don't buy Barbies unless they have a really good margin. I picked this up, the box was a little warped, I didn't think really anything of it. I had my phone, I scanned it, And my jaw probably dropped a little bit when I saw that the sales comps on these were in the $100 range. What was interesting though, and I'm going to put up a picture, is that even though the box is sealed, it's new, there's no baby inside. Look at, where's the baby? Well, as it turns out, the baby's fine. The baby's ties, the little things that hold it into its box, have disintegrated or had disintegrated, and the baby had made its way onto the floor of the box by Midge's feet. And as you can see, the baby's right there. Other boxes that I had seen when I was listing this for sold comps suffered the same issue. So I knew it wasn't a big deal. Some collector would still want it, and sure enough, sold it for $99.99 plus shipping. Next up was a long tail item for sure. Finally glad to see that it sold. This was a rare 1976 Hello Kitty mini vinyl coin purse. Now this item was picked among a lot of different items at a garage sale. I made a huge bulk deal. Most of it, if I recall, was Girl Scout items, patches and uniforms and whatnot, but this happened to be, this was, you know, a picker's paradise. This was a garage sale where there were bins and boxes everywhere, and you just kind of had to dig and whatever. And sure enough, in some container, in some box I opened up, was this mini coin purse. And I didn't think about it at the time other than, oh, it's Hello Kitty. That's kind of cool. Well, as I began doing some research on this item, I found that it was old, right? So the copyright date for Hello Kitty items usually consists of 2 dates. It's like a 1976, the original copyright, and usually the copyright date for that specific item. But this one only had the one. It was 1976 or 1978. I can't remember right now. I'd have to look at the picture. Either way, it was old, and I knew it was old. And I couldn't really find exact comps of what this was. I ended up joining a number of Hello Kitty fan pages on Facebook, where now I get to see people's Hello Kitty bedrooms in my Facebook feed all the time, which is great. But I was really looking to find some information on this, and what I think that I gathered was this was part of a keychain or something that had it had an attachment on there, and this was the only thing that remained was just the coin purse. And this coin purse is really small. It's probably, it literally could hold 2 quarters. And again, it's one of those things where it's rare, but does that mean that it's desirable? Will people pay up for it? I think I had it listed for $150, and it sat there, and I had a lot of watchers, and it sat there longer, and I had even more watchers. Well, lo and behold, an offer comes in of $100, and at that point, I jumped on it. And you always kind of think about these things after the fact, but you know, when you get a message after you sell something like this, after it arrives, you're just like, oh boy, is it going to be a return? Well, this one was kind of cool. The lady was a longtime collector of Hello Kitty. This was something that she had when she was a girl, younger girl, presumably. And this was, you know, it brought back memories for her, and she was happy and willing to pay the $100. And she sent me kudos and thanks, and it went on a nightstand, or it went on some sort of display stand in her bedroom or something. So all in all, a good story. You know, this was kind of the cool thing about finding these items, is matching those up with the people that really want it. I think that's kind of a fun thing. You know, it's a fun bonus to be able to find something that you know that someone out there really wants, and to be able to match it up. So heartwarming story, to say the least. So the last item on this list kind of pales in comparison to all of the rest of the sold comps here, but I threw it in here just because it's, you know, it's really what this channel is all about. This was a Thomas & Friends take and play along roundhouse with tracks and extra trains. It had 60 plus pieces together. I paid $5 for this at a garage sale, and I took a best offer of $65.79 plus shipping. And again, this was one of the ones where I bought it for $5, knowing that there was a lot of pieces inside. There were a lot of similar trains too, and these weren't the wooden trains, these were actually the die-cast metal trains. So I called out a lot of the duplicate trains, and I have those listed separately, which is kind of cool. But this bigger bundle with a lot of the tracks went for the price that I said before, $65.79 plus shipping. Well, that is about it for this video. I know that it's a little bit out of the ordinary. You know, I'm still trying to get back into the old YouTube habit, I guess. It's a skill. I feel like I've been rambling like no tomorrow. I have a lot of videos planned that I'd like to do. Again, it's life. I'm trying to carve out time. I'm trying to get myself back into a YouTube schedule. I think now that I've kind of zeroed out all of my sold items, that I can try to do what I've had in mind all along. Show you the solds during the week, show you the scores, and just kind of have you join me in this reselling journey. So if you like what you saw today, go ahead and click the like and subscribe button. I appreciate the number of people who didn't unsubscribe during the absence. It means a lot. Hopefully I am getting back into the routine and I haven't rambled too much. And so with that, I will see you on the next one.